No matter how others treat you, you can't bear to hurt them. You hide the pain, hide the truth, hide your thoughts just because you are afraid they might get sad or angry. If you have ever been like this video is for you. Welcome to the journey of decoding the inner self. Someone hurts you. It isn't a massive, explosive event. It's a quiet, sharp comment or a deliberate omission that leaves a cold draft in your chest. You instinctively pull out your phone to type out how you feel. You want to tell them that what they did mattered, that it left a mark. But as your fingers hover over the keyboard, you freeze. You write a sentence, then delete it. You rewrite it a second time, stripping out the rawest parts of your pain. You rewrite it a third time, turning your grievance into an apology. By the fourth draft, you have completely softened the edges, substituting your authentic reality with safe, polite vocabulary designed to reassure them. You tell yourself you are just being the bigger person. You tell yourself you are protecting their feelings, preserving the peace, avoiding unnecessary drama. But beneath that noble explanation lies a much colder truth. Your chest is tight, your breathing is shallow, and you are utterly terrified of what will happen if they get upset. You are so intensely afraid of their anger, their defensive silence, or their subtle emotional withdrawal that you willingly choose to swallow a handful of glass rather than risk making them uncomfortable. You take their bruising and carry it internally, convincing yourself that your silence is kindness, when in reality, it is a survival instinct disguised as virtue. You are sitting at the kitchen table. The coffee between your hands has grown completely cold, a thin film forming over the top, but you don't drink it. The person across from you notices the heavy silence and casually asks if you're okay. Before your brain can even process the depth of what you are actually feeling, your mouth moves on autopilot. You smile, a practiced, weightless smile, and say, "I'm fine, just a little tired from work." You do not mention the comment they made 10 minutes ago, the one that felt like a sudden drop in atmospheric pressure. You don't tell them that their words felt like a physical strike. Instead, you change the subject, clean up the counter, and ask them about their day. You put all your energy into ensuring their evening remains smooth, comfortable, and undisturbed, while a quiet, desperate storm rages entirely behind your eyes. You spend the rest of the night protecting them from the natural consequences of how they treated you. To understand why your body does this, we have to travel backward in time. Imagine a child, 6 or 7 years old, standing in the dimly lit hallway of a childhood home. The kitchen door is slightly open, casting a narrow, sharp strip of yellow light across the wooden floorboards. From inside the room, there is no shouting. There is no physical violence. There is only the heavy, rhythmic, suffocating sigh of an exhausted, overwhelmed parent. It is followed by the sharp, metallic click of a cabinet door closing just a little too hard. To an outside observer, nothing dangerous has happened, but to the nervous system of that small child, the air in the house has just transformed. The child can feel the drop in emotional pressure with absolute precision. You have a simple question about your homework, or you want to share something funny that happened at school, but you look at that strip of light and your body paralyzes. You don't walk into the kitchen, you don't ask for help. Instead, you quietly slide your notebook back into your backpack, pulling the zipper up inch by inch, slowly, so it doesn't make a single sound. You walk back to your bedroom on your tiptoes, making your footsteps entirely weightless. You learn to shrink your presence until you take up zero emotional space in that house. You learned very early that your parents had an emotional limit, and if you brought your needs, your messiness, or your pain to them, the system would break. You realized that to keep love available, or to simply keep the environment stable, you had to become the custodian of everyone else's mood. This is not a safe place to bring your pain. This is where the pattern is born. Your young mind internalized a fundamental, dangerous law of survival. My authenticity is a threat to my attachment. If I speak my truth, I will lose my safety. In clinical psychology, this involuntary survival mechanism is known as the Fawn Response. While most people are familiar with fight, flight, or freeze, fawning is the act of appeasing, placating, and over-accommodating others to avoid conflict and guarantee psychological safety. It is not a conscious lifestyle choice. It is a brilliant, desperate defense mechanism orchestrated by your autonomic nervous system. Your body learned that keeping other people stable was the only way to keep yourself from being abandoned. The tragedy is that your nervous system never got the memo that you grew up. It still operates as if you are that 6-year-old child trapped in that hallway, surrounded by fragile giants. Because of this outdated programming, you become the chronic over-apologizer. Someone bumps directly into your shoulder at a crowded grocery store, clearly a result of their own distraction, and the word sorry leaves your lips before you can even process the physical impact. You apologize when it rains during an outdoor plan you didn't organize. You apologize to the waiter when they bring you the completely wrong dish, making excuses for their mistake while you eat food you didn't order. You are constantly apologizing, not for actions you've taken, but for the very fact that your physical body occupies space in the world. This behavior is driven by an exhausting state of chronic hypervigilance. Your brain operates like an overtuned radar dish, constantly scanning the environment for the tiniest micro-expressions. You notice the exact millisecond a colleague's jaw tightens. You detect the subtle shift in text message punctuation, the terrifying absence of an exclamation point, or an unusually long delay in a response. You read these tiny variations in the air, not out of casual curiosity, but because you feel an urgent, frantic responsibility to put out an emotional fire before the spark can even touch the ground. You have been conditioned to believe that you are personally responsible for the weather in every room you enter. If someone near you is quiet, sad, or frustrated, your brain automatically translates their internal state into a personal failure. What did I do wrong? How do I fix it? The exhaustion of this lifestyle doesn't sleep when you do. At 2 a.m., when the bedroom is pitch black and the rest of the world is completely silent, your mind is running a relentless marathon. You replay a 5-second casual interaction from 3 days ago. You dissect a joke you made, analyzing whether your tone was slightly too sharp, whether your words could have been misinterpreted as insensitive, or whether someone is secretly harboring a deep resentment toward you. You spend hours managing impressions inside your own head, performing elaborate mental gymnastics to rewrite past events, tearing your own peace of mind to shreds just to ensure you remain perfectly palatable, perfectly safe, and perfectly harmless to everyone else. This is the destructive cycle of ruminative coping paired with internalized emotional invalidation. Your mind acts as its own prosecutor, judge, and executioner. You routinely cross-examine your own right to exist, convincing yourself that your basic human boundaries are actually dangerous weapons. You treat your natural preferences, your exhaustion, and your needs as if they are crimes committed against the people you love. And you don't do this because you are selfish or manipulative. You do it because your ancient survival brain genuinely believes that your raw, unedited honesty will result in the complete destruction of your relationships. This creates a profound, suffocating loneliness that almost no one ever talks about. It is the loneliness of being loved entirely for who you pretend to be. You may be surrounded by an extensive network of friends, family members, and romantic partners who think you are wonderful. They praise you for being so easygoing, so supportive, so reliable, and so selfless. Yet deep inside, you feel completely isolated, unseen, and empty. You're lonely because you have never allowed them to meet the actual human being behind the mask. You only permit them to see the curated version of you that requires absolutely nothing from them, the version that has no needs, no boundaries, and no complaints. You have meticulously constructed a cage out of your own accommodation, and now you sit inside it, wondering why no one can hear you screaming from behind the bars. The climax of this self-betrayal occurs when someone genuinely wrongs you. They cross a clear, explicit boundary you've tried to establish, or they break a promise that deeply mattered to your emotional stability. In a healthy dynamic, this is the moment where anger rises to protect you, signaling that it's time to hold the line. But as soon as you express even a fraction of your hurt, you watch the other person start to stress. They get defensive, they roll their eyes, or they sink into a heavy, sorrowful silence. Suddenly, an incredible psychological inversion takes place. Your system panics at their discomfort. The focus completely shifts away from your original injury, and you find yourself actively comforting them while they are supposed to be apologizing to you. You find yourself saying, "No, it's okay, really. I was just being too sensitive. I overreacted. Don't worry about it. I know you didn't mean it." You minimize your own emotional bruising, applying ointment to their ego to make absolutely sure they don't have to experience the uncomfortable guilt of having struck you. This is emotional suppression carried to its absolute limit. You choose your own abandonment over the potential discomfort of another person. You decide that your reality is expendable, as long as the relationship remains intact. If you recognize yourself in these words, I want you to take a deep, slow breath right now. Drop your shoulders away from your ears. Unclench your jaw. You need to understand something with absolute clarity. You did not develop this pattern because you lack courage. You did not become this way because you are inherently weak, spineless, or broken. Your attachment system treats their discomfort as an existential threat because at one point in your life, it was an existential threat. When you were a child, a parent's prolonged displeasure or emotional withdrawal wasn't just an inconvenience. It meant a loss of care, a loss of protection, and a loss of safety. Hiding your needs, silencing your voice, and monitoring the room wasn't a psychological flaw. It was your armor. It was a brilliant, highly sophisticated, and deeply adaptive strategy that kept you whole and kept love available in the only form it was being offered. The problem is not that you learned to protect others at your own expense. The problem is that the lesson was written for a room that no longer exists. You are trying to navigate your adult life, your adult friendships, and your adult careers using a survival manual that was written for a childhood crisis. You are an adult now. You are no longer that helpless child in the hallway. You have resources, you have agency, and you have the capacity to survive someone else being upset with you. But knowing this intellectually changes nothing. Your nervous system does not update its software simply because you read a quote or decided to think differently. You cannot think your way into feeling safe. The body only updates its programming through real-world moments that end differently than your old survival rules predicted. It requires what psychologists call corrective emotional experiences, small, deliberate, controlled moments of vulnerability where you speak a sliver of your truth, allow someone else to experience their discomfort, and witness your body surviving the aftermath. The ultimate goal of this healing journey is not to completely stop feeling the fear of hurting others. That empathetic sensitivity is a beautiful part of who you are, and it will likely always be a quiet humming in your chest. The goal is to deeply realize that their discomfort is not your damage. You can love someone deeply, respect them thoroughly, and still allow them to sit with the natural weight and consequences of how they chose to treat you. Their emotional reaction is their responsibility, not your debt to pay. How do we begin to change a habit that has been carved into your bones for decades? We start small. We do not try to build a massive fortress of boundaries overnight. Start tonight by simply noticing the apology before it drops out of your mouth. You don't even have to force yourself to change the words yet. Just observe the impulse. Notice the physical sensation in your throat, the tight, frantic urge to say sorry when you are merely walking past someone, or when you are asking a completely reasonable question. Just catch it. Watch the habit work and realize that the impulse belongs to your past, not your present. Next, practice finding a sentence that is significantly smaller than an explanation. When someone asks you for a favor, an extra shift, or an emotional investment that you do not have the capacity to give, your instinct will be to present a long, elaborate essay detailing why you can't do it. You will want to invent a minor emergency or a medical excuse just to justify your refusal. The next time this happens, try using exactly 6 words. No defense, no prologue, no apologies. Try, "I can't do that this time." Say it, and then stop talking. Let the silence that follows belong entirely to the room. It does not belong to your panic. Let the other person navigate their own adjustment to your boundaries while you simply practice breathing through the quiet. When you begin doing this, a very specific thing will happen. The guilt will come. It will arrive heavy, loud, and incredibly convincing. It will tell you that you are selfish, cold, and a terrible friend. The goal is not to try and fight the guilt or make it disappear. The goal is to let the guilt sit right next to you, like an uncomfortable passenger in the seat, while you do what is right for your own well-being anyway. Let the guilt burn in your chest, watch it carefully, and notice that when the fire finally burns itself out, you are still standing, unhurt and whole. The individuals who spend their entire lives terrified of hurting others are not fragile, weak-willed people. You are a hyper-tuned, extraordinarily resilient protector who has spent a lifetime carrying emotional weights that never belong to you. You have acted as a shield for everyone else's feelings while leaving your own beautiful human heart completely unprotected. You were never too much for expressing a boundary. You were simply trying to fit your vast, complex humanity into a room that was far too small to hold it. And those two things are not the same. You are fully allowed to look at someone and say, "That hurt me," without apologizing before the sentence even ends. Which part of this felt the most like you? Leave it in the comments. One sentence is enough. I read every single one. And what people write there usually becomes the next video. And if you know someone who carries this quietly, send it to them. You don't have to explain anything. Sometimes that's the whole message. Thank you for being here. Please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. Maybe the next video will be your story.